organisations as well. Paul's just going to give us a quick overview about how, what they've been doing in their organisation as a smaller organisation, not only big corporate organisations, but as a smaller organisation, what have they been doing to make a change? So what I'd like you to do is welcome Paul up to the stage. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Ian. I am Paul, who's the Managing Director for Veritech Security, and I'm the lucky winner of this year's Fair Inspiration Award, which incidentally was quite mind-blowing. It's a privilege to stand before you today at this year's annual Diversity Data Benchmarking Conference, where we come together to celebrate our progress, challenge our perspectives, and ignite a collective drive towards a truly inclusive future. Today I want to begin by acknowledging each of you, whether you are here representing an organisation, an initiative, or simply as an individual passionate about equality. Know that your dedication is shaping a world where opportunity is accessible to all. We're not just participants in this journey, we are pioneers, and together we are setting the standards for diversity and inclusion. The most important thing you'll learn here today is how to create a culture of true belonging, a workplace and a community where every individual feels valued, empowered and respected for who they are. While diversity focuses on representation and inclusion, I've lost myself there. Belonging is a critical step to ensure people not only have a seat at the table, but also feel genuinely included and be able to thrive. Today I want to share with you the diverse journey of experience in my career to date, including the challenges I've faced, the lows, the highs, and even some of the more humorous moments along the way. Starting my career at 16 years old, I joined the British Army as a junior leader, stationed at Bramcote Barracks in Warwickshire, for a year's training, which included gunner training with the Royal Artillery. I joined my troop along 46 other junior leaders from across the UK. There were 12 troops in all, so a lot of junior leaders trying to fit in and to excel. Many of whom I've never heard the accents or encountered before. My sense of humour initially urged me to keep these thoughts to myself, but over time I've been accustomed to the diversity in speech. It was a massive culture shock for me at 16, being shouted at 24/7, beasted, which involved, well, they called it character building, weeding out the weaker candidates to find the leaders. This would involve changing parades, body holding positions, sleep deprivation, running, marching, gun runs, soul courses, log runs, canal runs, tunnel exercises, the list goes on. We were told it was all about discipline. Back then, a swift punch or a kick would either break you or toughen you up. Sleep deprivation exercise is one of the hardest challenges we faced. This might seem odd to you, but forcing someone to stay awake is very difficult. But with fear, it was a lot easier. These were carried out over a week or so, and some nights, no sleep at all. But when we performed well, we were rewarded with sleep. I remember a couple of situations in training. We set up an ambush and had to lay low in a position for 4 to 5 hours before the enemy would be in front of our position. The trouble was we were all extremely exhausted and then inevitably fell asleep lying in our positions. Cold and wet through, our entire troop fell asleep. The training staff eventually turned up and of course they easily pinpointed our location because of the deafening noise of our snoring. After we were all woken up gently with the butt of an SLR rifle, a few thunder flashes, we all knew that we were in a serious trouble. So of course it was beasting time again, and needless to say a few guys dropped out after the 6-mile yomp in full kit. Upon conclusion of this exercise and on the long hike back to our billets, all walking in tactical staggered formation down a dark track, there were many of us, including me, that fell asleep walking. Some would end up in water-filled ditches, others like me woke up as I was veering off the road. Funny thing was, though, we became quite accustomed and used to it, so we took advantage of the situation and got some shut-eye. I knew the treatment wasn't quite right, but what could I do at the start of my military career? Failing wasn't an option, and I didn't want to be noticed as a defeatist. After bombardments of discipline, somehow we managed to create a distraction in our minds and have some fun between us. One winter's evening in Bramcote, just after midnight, we were all in our beds laughing about some experiences we had over the last few weeks, when one of us came up with a challenge to break the monotony. The challenge was to put a respirator on, a belt and 2 mess tins, one at the front and one at the rear, hiding your personal areas. The idea was to run outside our main building and around the building and back into our billet window. We named it Mess Tin Order. Unfortunately, this particular evening, and unbeknown to us, while the military police were carrying out their patrols, they came across several footprints in the snow around our building and alerted our sergeant. At around 1:30 in the morning, our sergeant stormed into our billets, raging, and demanded an explanation of the footprints in the snow. We were petrified and lost for words, so we came clean and told him exactly what we'd done. It was at this point that the sergeant decided to put a stop to this and ordered everyone outside, formed up on the road, in Mess Tin Order. We were marched into the parade square in Mess Tin Order, freezing cold and beastly for around an hour. You can imagine the mess tins didn't exactly stay where they were. They were little food tins that used to go the front and back to hide your parts. It was very amusing, and we all struggled to keep a straight face. This enraged the sergeant even more and kept us on the parade square for even longer. Through the shouting of our sergeant, some of the other troops had woken up and were watching from their windows, and I can still remember us all belly laughing to this day. Back in 1980, or in the 80s, being homosexual was an offence in the military. You'd be kicked out if you were. I was completely naive to this and had no real idea what this was all about. I just thought there were none in the army. We were led to believe it was the wrong thing to do, against the rules. When we left the army, I found this all quite strange when in social circles and meeting people of other sexual orientations for the first time. Back in 1987, for me, the word equality wasn't a word that didn't mean anything to me. And looking back, how it was completely unknown, hidden, suppressed, not talked about. We were all boys. We were told what to do, when to eat, when to sleep, and not to have an opinion, which, to be honest, was all we knew. Just getting through each day of training were our objectives. But please don't get me wrong. I love my military career and I never regretted anything. Unfortunately, there were a lot of non-stayers, and we ended up with 14 gunners at our passing out parade at the end of our year's training. But we had all transformed into highly trained combat units. No more being told to shout at a sandbag with your toughest war face on and stabbing it with a bayonet. We were now joining our man service regiments. Just over 6 years of service, I decided to see what else was out there. And like most ex-military people do, they go into security. But this just didn't give me what I needed. So I decided to think outside the box and change my approach to my future. I ended up working as a temp for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and within a short time I was directly employed as a case manager dealing with liquidations. A couple of you might remember Miller Buckley and Leyland Daff. Working for PwC, I noticed there were only men in the partners list, and as far as I can remember, not personally seen any female partners. There were, however, a 50-50 balance of staff, which was brilliant. The office mum, dad, or whatever, you felt part of a team, a piece in the puzzle, and you felt valued. I learned a lot about business and insolvency, and most importantly, how to stay ahead when it comes to finance and making good business decisions that supports the business direction and the employees that rely on us. After some time, I was offered a position in London that I ended up turning down to start my own business. This is where I went completely out of my comfort zone. And I started an entertainment agency with a friend of a friend called Dave. He worked in the entertainment industry for many years, and after meeting, we decided to create a company, Sparkle Entertainments. And unbeknown to me at this time, Dave was actually Davina Sparkle, a stage drag artist. He provided entertainment for ladies' nights and stag nights, accompanied by dancers that eventually highlighted these shows. Well, after understanding that Dave was actually a homosexual and a brilliant guy, I thought, what the hell, and decided to give it a go. He taught me how to run the PA system and put me in charge of this on the shows. Well, one evening at a large Portsmouth venue with a catwalk type stage, we provided a show for a ladies' night with over 300 attending. Everything was going to plan when, at the halfway break, we had a call from one of the male dancers explaining that a vehicle had broke down and they couldn't make it. Dave looked at me and said, "We've got no choice. You're going to have to get up on the stage and strip." We had over 300 screaming ladies that night, so neither of us wanted to tell them that the dancers weren't showing up. So I swallowed my pride and did what I had to do for the company, and without a thong. Dave is still a great friend of mine and has continued to be a very successful drag artist in his career and in entertainment, and he's helped me to think completely different about sexuality. Sexuality is diverse and personal, and I realise it's an important part of who you are. It's not defined by who you have sex with, but rather how you feel and how you choose to be identified. Needless to say, after this short period, I was looking for another career change. I completely switched direction again and started to learn about my passion in construction. I read books at every opportunity, talked to as many tradesmen as I could, whilst absorbing as much information as possible. I worked for a small construction company in central London, learning about how to underpin properties. Watching every tradesman like a hawk, somehow over the years I managed to learn the principles and skills of each and every trade, from the footings up to traditional roof cutting. After a couple of years I cracked on and started a company with a friend of mine, and we named our company Navajo Developments, and that was our slogan because we were not the cowboys. Eventually we took on 2 apprentices, which I absolutely loved as part of the building. This was my first experience in giving back and helping others. Just giving someone the opportunity, teaching them a trade, making them feel valued. This was it for me. I believed I found my passion. I was a people's person for sure. My approach was and it still is fairness, inclusion, respect, and I'd always treat the people the way I'd expect to be treated myself. We secured some great contracts with several embassies in London, including the United Arab Emirates, the French Embassy, the Quebec government and the Venezuelan embassy, becoming their general builders. We even refurbished the residence of the Quebec ambassador's home in Holland Park. We finally ended up buying and selling properties in the south and working for other developers, and we even built 4 detached houses in Poole from the ground up. We had sparkies and gas engineers that would do the dangerous bits. Incidentally, in the road opposite these new builds, my wife resided, that I hadn't yet met, and many years later we had. Time passed by, and at this point, 15 years of the construction, we became very proficient and got noticed by builders as specialist roof cutting contractors. We, the entire team, were all passionate about carpentry, so this ticked all of our boxes. Sadly, one day our site was broken into and all of our tools had been stolen, even though it was alarmed. The industry for us was becoming very competitive, and we lost a lot of tenders to companies undercutting. So I decided to have one final career change. The final stage of my career led me to start a security company with a friend, and Veritex Systems Security was born in 2009. I started as managing director, and we grew very fast. We were turning over a lot of money, but this wasn't really enough for me. Money wasn't my drive, people were. I was alarmed to what the security staff were paid in the industry and what they were expected to do, the lack of communication, support, and even PPE. I now had a bee in my bonnet and needed to convince my team to support me in bringing our standards beyond the expectations of our customers and our industry. In short, start benchmarking standards and giving our staff the support, dedication, and commitment that they need and deserve, and above all, feel valued. After a couple of years, our team grew fast. This is when I started to develop HR policies and procedures for our business. This was a real eye-opener, and I'd not realised how much was involved. I soon realised that creating and implementing these documents without support and backing from the team, it just made no difference at all. I'd researched everything. It just seemed pointless to appoint a HR company and then not knowing what they've done, what's in it, and what does it mean to us, what the law is, and so on. When it came to education and training, and without a big budget, I found myself going around in circles and not knowing where to turn for support. And eventually I found school. They gave me every tool and support that I needed. Over the past 6 years, I've completed over 220 hours of activity time and gained over 100 certificates and badges, and have the Gold Ambassadorship in sight next May. To combat any non-compliance, I built a fully automated quality management system. This took away the need to remind staff of their responsibilities. I formed our FIR committee to strengthen our commitment to fostering inclusive, equitable and supportive environment within Veritech systems. Veritech has already demonstrated a strong dedication in promoting equality in the security industry, as seen this year in achieving awards and initiatives in construction and the security sectors. Our FIR committee formalised this commitment, ensuring that diversity and inclusion are constantly prioritised in policies, practices and meetings. The committee created a platform for addressing issues related to bias, discrimination and exclusion. Its purpose was to ensure all employees feel valued and have a sense of belonging, which of course is crucial for morale, productivity and overall job satisfaction. Our FIR committee reinforces my position as an industry leader, demonstrating to clients, partners and employees that we are taking actionable steps to create a positive and equitable workplace. The committee reflects Veritech's commitment to ethical practices and social responsibility. It demonstrates that we not just value our financial success, but also the well-being of our employees and the communities that we serve. We take great pride in our ongoing efforts to make a positive impact. Our initiatives include supporting numerous charities, adhering to the pay gap initiative, and launching our own ESG report to promoting sustainability and accountability. Additionally, we have developed extensive case studies, implemented in-house mental health training programs, introduced dedicated induction handbooks for new employees and in 5 languages, whilst maintaining an excellent staff retention levels. In fact, our office has 12 staff, and I think there's 9 of them that have served more than 10 years in our office. The workplace is more than just a collection of tasks. It's a dynamic environment where everybody and every individual feels unique, brings their unique challenges, strengths and aspirations. One of the keys to fostering a thriving, supportive workplace is recognising effective leaders and colleagues must be adaptable, ready to wear different hats to meet the diverse needs of everyone in our team. I now find myself where I wanted to be, making that difference, supporting my teams, listening and asking questions. I was very happy and effective, but above all, I was now able to engage in my passion full steam ahead. And this is where I am today. Asking how somebody was 60 years ago was human instinct. If a person was walking down the road looking miserable, someone would have asked, "How are you?" I tell you, I've experienced that in my military career, some really shitty times. Just to hear someone say to you, "Are you okay, mate?" It made me well up inside. I felt supported and valued as a squad member, trusted, important, respected and honoured. I know that this was my experience, but remember, these were all human instincts. We were never taught these subjects. We just understood fairness, inclusion and respect. I know that we're all now integrating a process that existed as human instincts in the past, and now we're creating courses and subjects on it. Over the last few years, our shared efforts have paved the way for meaningful change. We've seen an increasing commitment from our customers to implementing policies, create resources, and break down barriers that have historically kept people separated. Initiatives in hiring, pay gap, pay equality, accessibility, and leadership development are transforming workplaces and communities alike. but we know that this progress, as promising it is just the beginning. Our journey requires us to constantly re-evaluate and reaffirm our commitments to diversity and inclusion. This is a journey that goes beyond numbers on a report or slogans on a poster. True progress means challenging mindsets, dismantling obstacles and fostering environments where each person feels empowered, valued and seen for who they are. Despite the progress we face, undeniable challenges, biases, both conscious and unconscious, still exist. Many individuals experience discrimination based on their race, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, ability, religion, or socioeconomic background. These are deeply rooted issues that don't disappear with good intentions alone. The responsibility of creating a culture of belonging lies heavily on leadership. As leaders, we have the duty not only to set an example, but to inspire action, to listen deeply, and lead courageously. This means making diversity and inclusion an integral part of our strategies, not just for compliance or image, but because it's essential to our values and our success. With progress comes accountability. It is not enough to set goals. We must be committed to measuring, reporting, and learning from our outcomes. Diversity and inclusion are not check-the-box exercises. They demand ongoing attention, honest assessment, and the courage to make changes even when they challenge the status quo. I encourage each of you to think about how you can hold yourself accountable. What policies can you reevaluate? How can you use data to measure inclusion? And what steps can you take to ensure that diverse voices are not only represented, but empowered? In closing, and as we move forward today, let us hold to the words of Maya Angelou, who said, "We should all know that diversity makes for rich tapestry, and we must understand that the threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter their colour." Each of us here today is a thread in that tapestry, contributing to a vision that is more inclusive, more compassionate, and more just. Let us continue to work together, to hold each other accountable, and to inspire those around us, because together we have the power to create the world we envision, one where every person feels valued and every voice is heard. Thank you very much for listening.
Conscious of time now, we do have a few questions. Brilliant, coming through. It's been a long journey, Paul. It has, yeah. And I've been inspired what you said about what leaders should do in an organisation. And I think, I was inspired what you said about what leaders should do. Well, there's a big version of me now, that's clever. Yeah, don't see more here. Question here, what has been the one thing that created the biggest change in EDI within your company? You did so much, but if there was one thing you had to say which really changed it, what would it be?
I'd say it was the meeting. There isn't an hour that goes by that no one mentions the word fire. It's just that we made every part of the organisation. We make a control centre, the operations team, the accounts teams. It's amazing to hear them talk about it.
That third committee brings together a group of like-minded people across the organisation who can share, give them a safe space to talk with the issues. Yeah,
we even give the opportunity to different members of the committee to share meetings with their own speeches about what they believe in.
Paul, after a very diverse career, what's been the biggest challenge and how did you overcome it? You sound like there's some pretty big challenges there with a young man in the army.
I think it was getting everybody to support me,
yeah.
My ideas and my future, where I want the company to be, and to be a leader in our industry. I always wanted to ensure I was always the best I could possibly be, not just for myself, but people who work for me.
Yeah. About leadership, Do you have to be the boss of an organisation to be a leader?
No, not at all. No.
So how does that work in your own organisations, like in Veritech?
I think everybody has their own ideas and their own drives, and it gives them confidence to speak up, to be able to sort of make suggestions, and yeah, I think it's just great being involved in the teams, and exactly what I wanted as a business owner.
Brilliant. For an organisation that is starting out on this journey, what would your guidance for HR? What would be your guidance for HR to help them get leadership on the board? So if the organisation just starting out on their journey, on their third journey, what would be your guidance for the HR function to get the board to lead in the subject? How do you get the buy-in of your board, in other words?
Yeah.
Easier in a small company because it's probably you, isn't it, and your business partner.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of learning. I like to learn things myself rather than go get educated and to learn from the mistakes I make. And if you just read as much as you possibly can on the subject, you learn really quickly. Yeah, it's just.
Get on with it. You said something about leadership and like inspiring action, which is I completely get that as well. You know, it's leadership has to inspire action, but leaders can be at any level in your organisation, and if those leaders can get change, I think that's absolutely great. Paul, I'm very conscious that we're coming between teas and coffees and people at a restaurant, what have you. I'd like to just say a big thank you once again for coming here, giving us your life story, but also showing how we changed during our lives. You know, where people of a certain age, and you know, you've come from a different background, and through that different background, there's many experiences, you've actually put all that into a business and grown a business where you put fur at the heart of it. And that's actually a real credit to you that you've now got a successful business by doing the right thing. And so I think that's absolutely superb. Let's put our hands together with that. Thank Paul. Superb. Lovely. Yeah, I'm running a little bit late, but